Welcome to Titusville Spotlight. This is episode 2. Edie, I just looked at the calendar. It's been 5 or 6 months since we did episode 1.
Oh my.
Where has the time gone?
We were going to do it a little sooner than that.
Well, one of the ways the time went is we recorded a new CD, and that took some time.
We did.
And we're going to play a song off our new CD. This is our new CD right here. It's called Play a Linda. And we're going to close out the show with one of the songs. Edie, we've talked about some new industries moving around here, and there's some new things going on downtown. You've talked about it before. What's going on down there?
Well, there was supposed to be a group called Red Canyon Software moving in from Denver, Colorado. And all that it looks like so far is that they have construction signs by Lloyd up, and that's pretty much it.
But at least there's a sign up.
There's a sign up.
So important to have your own sign up. Okay, so we're going to tell you next time about some progress. Hopefully that downtown area is getting refurbished a little bit. And there's 2 or 3 things that have closed down there. Bar 9 is closed. The Martini Bar is still there.
Yes, it is.
And McSweets is going good. We go down there and play at McSweets every now and then. So things are actually happening. Okay, so Edie, we've got kind of a fun show tonight. This was really your idea, so tell us what we're going to do.
We see a lot of street names and parks and monuments and whatnot that are named after people, so we decided to do some research and find out who were those guys.
Yeah, and so our first part of this is literally called Who Were Those Guys? And we've picked out 4, and I think next show we're going to do a couple of more. And so the first one we're going to do is a man named Alan Cruikshank. And for those of you who have been out on the Cruikshank hiking trail out on Merritt Island, he was a big wheel in the Audubon Society. Have you been out there?
It's been a while, but yes.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. I'd advise going out in the winter because it can get a little bit hot and buggy in the summer. But let's learn about Alan Cruikshank.
The first person we want to talk about is Alan Cruikshank. For those of you who have gone out to the Merritt Island Reserve, as you go out on your left, you will see a cutoff for going through the birding loop. It's where the roseate ibises come in the winter. And if you go way out there, we're showing you sort of how the journey out there looks. You will come to a group of buildings, and there's a plaque there for Alan Cruikshank. And there's also the Cruikshank Trail. Alan Cruikshank was born in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. He moved to New York City at the age of 2, presumably with his parents. At an early age, probably early teens, he began interest in birds, which is kind of odd because you don't see that many birds in New York City. But because they were such a rarity, he became interested in them. He attended New York University and became a very noted ornithologist. He was on the staff of the National Audubon Society for 37 years. I believe he was a photographer with them. He was also a member of any number of naturalist groups in and around New York City. He eventually, I believe he retired. I don't know what he was doing in Florida. He lived in Rockledge. And I believe he was still very active in the birding community around here. And so Alan Cruikshank was the one that really lobbied to get the Merritt Island Wildlife Preserve set up and to put some trails around there and make it a place for bird watching. And so they've named a trail and an area after him. He died fairly young. He died in 1967 in Gainesville, probably at the teaching hospital up there. And he was a noted author and photographer. So he was an all-around good guy. And for those of you who enjoy hiking and going bird watching out on Merritt Island, he's one of the people that was really responsible for setting that area up and making it basically a preserve for the public to enjoy.
And we're back. And so now we've learned a little bit about the Merritt Island and the birding out there. The next guy we want to talk about is John Cheney. Now, we're on Cheney Highway. Our studios are on Cheney Highway here. And I never knew who Mr. Cheney was Turns out he wasn't from Titusville. He was actually from Orlando, and actually from Florida in general. He was a famous both attorney and a judge here. He was active in the 20s.
Right.
We're going to find out in a second, but let's find out who John Cheney was.
Everyone knows where Cheney Highway is. Cheney Highway is our end of Highway 50. Highway 50 starts at the Indian River and goes all the way through Brooksville to Weeki Wachee. It's one of the many state roads that crisscrosses the state from east to west. It's named after John Moses Cheney. Now, the original Cheney Highway is what we call Old Cheney Highway today. For those of you who know where the Fashion Square Mall is in Orlando, where the old Hal Watts dive store was, that's where Old Cheney Highway came out into Orlando, and it originally came from Orange County over here to the coast. There was a wooden bridge across the Loxahatchee River, and when the state put in Highway 50, then the Old Cheney Highway wasn't needed anymore, and the bridge was removed. So you can't get all the way from Orlando to Brevard County on Old Cheney Highway anymore, I don't believe. But so this end of Highway 50 was renamed Cheney Highway, and that road got the name Old Cheney Highway. Cheney Highway is really only this end of Highway 50. John Moses Cheney was born, I believe, in Milwaukee in 1859. He must have been a pretty smart guy because he went to the Boston School of Law, and he became an attorney in Orlando. He was an attorney in Orlando from 1886 to 1906. He was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida from 1906 to 1913. In 1912, he became the position on the seat of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, but he withdrew in 1913 because the Senate wouldn't confirm him, and so he went back into private practice. So he was an attorney again from 1913 to 1922. He passed away in 1922. He was on the board of Rollins College, and he actually owned the Orlando Light and Water Company from 1901 to 1922, which is when he passed away. So he was quite a prominent attorney, and for a little while a government attorney, John Moses Cheney.
And we're back again. Edie, we got a new bridge in town.
Oh, that's right.
The Bud Brewer Bridge, and it's won awards. It's really nice. Do you know who Bud Brewer was?
No clue.
Neither did I. But I went and found out. Tragically, Mr. Brewer was killed when he was fairly young in an airplane accident. But let's find out who was Bud Brewer.
In 1948, a wooden bridge was put across the Indian River between downtown Titusville and Merritt Island. This bridge was in service until sometime in the 60s, and it was replaced by a steel drawbridge. The steel drawbridge was used until a couple of years ago, at which time it was replaced by one of the taller bridges that are tall enough for boats to go under. Now, for those of you who haven't grown up around those drawbridges, I grew up in Pompano Beach in the 60s, and the only drawbridge around was at Atlantic Avenue, and it would get stuck in the up position about once a month. So the only other bridge around at that time was about 25 miles to the south down in Fort Lauderdale. And if you were riding a bike, of course, you weren't going to do it. Many's the night I got home late from high school because that bridge was stuck in the up position. Or many's the night I couldn't go over to the mainland because the bridge was stuck in the up position. So these new bridges are really a boon as far as not getting people stuck on one side or the other, and boats can go under them. This new bridge, you're seeing a picture here, has actually won several design awards. It's apparently one of the best ones and the best looking ones around. And it's named after Max Brewer. Now, who was Max Brewer? Well, according to the Brevard Historical Society, Albert Max Brewer was a Titusville attorney, prominent in the 1950s. He succeeded William Akridge as the state representative from Brevard County. In 1961, Governor Bryant appointed him to the State Road Board, which is probably why the bridge was named after him. Tragically, in 1966, he was killed when his private plane crashed. And so the 1983 bridge was renamed the A. Max Brewer Bridge in his honor. And you can find newspaper articles about the plane crash still today. I don't know the circumstances, but the information is out there somewhere. So, Max, wherever you are, you did good, and you've got a beautiful bridge that's won awards named after you.
And we're back once again, and this last person was somebody that you came up with, Amos Lewis, and although we don't talk about it in the presentation we made, you told me that Amos Lewis was quite a singer.
Yes, he was involved with the blues.
Blues and gospel. He was also a deacon in the church. All around quite a guy. Let's find out who Amos Lewis was and where we can see his name.
The next person we want to talk about is Amos Lewis. For those of you who have gone by the high school on the north end, you will see Amos Lewis Street. It was designated by the city of Titusville as Amos Lewis Street in 2015. Previously, it was Sycamore Street. Who was Amos Lewis? Amos Lewis was born on April 1st, 1928. He passed away November the 11th, 2014. He was a deacon in the St. James Missionary Baptist Church in Mims. He became a deacon in 1964. He originally owned the Sunset Funeral Home, which later became the Ray Lewis Funeral Home, which is still there today. You can drive by and see it. What do we know about Ray Lewis? Mr. Amos Lewis helped people read documents who couldn't otherwise read them. He helped bury loved ones whose families couldn't afford to cover the cost, and he did this at his own time and his own expense. Mr. and Mrs. Lewis had organized a scholarship fund for people around the area. He left behind, I have a list of his kin in the area. It's too big to go over. He left behind 100 or so children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews. He had a very large family that's still in the area. And the reason I like to report on people like Mr. Lewis was he achieved his notoriety not because of a position he held. He wasn't an attorney. He wasn't a politician. He was simply a really good guy. And so this notoriety that we have honored him with this street naming was simply because for 40 years he served his community. He was a warrior for the unprivileged. He helped everyone he could help. And apparently he did it without any self-acclaim. So for those of you who go by and you see Amos Lewis Street, you now know it was named after a genuinely good guy and quite a local hero.
And we're back. And so that's our episode of Who Were Those Guys? And we're going to do a couple of more because Titusville actually has some relatively famous people around here.
Some interesting signs.
Yeah, it's interesting signs. Tonight's show is once again brought to you by Veronica's Barbershop, 811 Cheney Highway, the best haircuts in town. Veronica is licensed as both a barber, a cosmetologist, an esthetician, and she's also been a massage therapist. So get her to do you a scalp massage. You won't be sorry. Veronica's Barbershop, 811 Cheney Highway. Our next section we're going to call Watering Holes and Eateries. We've done two tonight. The first one is the Orleans by the River, and for some reason I always want to keep calling it the New Orleans restaurant, but it's not.
Right.
It's the Orleans by the River. Edie and I will play down there at their open mics occasionally on Tuesday. You and I have eaten there together. We went there with my grandson, and what do you think?
Overall, it's good. It's not any kind of specialty food, but I think it's pretty good. And
Yeah,
the service isn't bad either.
I've always been happy. Now, when they first opened, they were going to be a New Orleans Cajun restaurant, and that didn't work out. They discovered that Titusville wasn't really ready for a Cajun restaurant. But they still have a couple of Cajun dishes on the menu. When you and I went down there, I had fish tacos, and they were very good. They were the second best fish tacos around. I've had their jambalaya. Their fried green tomatoes are arguably the best around. Really excellent fried green tomatoes. They're not cheap, but then again, I wouldn't say they're overly expensive.
No.
They're divided into a rear dining area, and then they have a bar in the front with a dining area. My only objection, and this is only on nights when they have music, on the open mic nights it's acoustic, it's good, it's not loud, but on the nights they have music, they can have very loud bands in there. And if you're dining 5 feet away from a band that's playing at 200 decibels, it can be a little hard to eat and a little hard to talk. And so if you don't like loud music, you might want to reconsider going on a different night, because their music is very loud and sometimes it's god-awful.
And but the restaurant's an L shape, so...
Yeah, so the music doesn't always jive with trying to do fine dining. However, usually the music is done by 9 or 10 o'clock. They stop serving the main restaurant early on. They have like a special menu for the bar later on. But all in all, service is decent. Food is not bad. Let's look at the Orleans by the river.
The Orleans by the river, or for some reason I want to call it the New Orleans by the river, but it's the Orleans by the river. This restaurant was opened a couple of years ago. It was designed to be a New Orleans-style restaurant. They had some problems when they first opened. We went there right after their opening, and it wasn't very good. But they've got a new chef. They've got things turned around. And it's quite a decent place, particularly for being in Titusville. It's on US 1, right across from the river, which is probably why it's called the Orleans by the river. So the building is shaped kind of like a dumbbell. And the dining area and the entertainment is on the left. There's a bar in the center and a dining room in the center. And then on the back, there's another bar that doesn't get used very much. So here we're looking at the bar. And here's a picture of the outside of it. And here's looking south. So here's a video showing what the inside. Now this is in the dining area. When you first walk in, the bar is right in front of you, and then the dining area is to the left. As you see from this, you can see the bar. The entertainment, the stage, is right in back of the dining area. And if you see my wife's head right there, you see the stage right in back of it. This is a problem because every now and then, if you're going in there to eat dinner, my one objection is the music can get very, very loud, and it makes it impossible to talk to somebody. And so what you're going to see is bands that look kind of like this. And if you don't like rock and roll blaring while you're eating dinner, go on a night when they don't have entertainment. It's a common problem with people who think they understand music and they don't. And Edie and I deal with this constantly. So here's a couple looks at their menu. They still have a lot of New Orleans style food on the menu. As you see, they've got fried green tomatoes are excellent. They're the best around. They've got etouffee. They've got steamed mussels. They've got Cajun jalapeno poppers. They've got fried pickles. They've got nachos. Last time I was there, I had fish tacos, and they were excellent. So they have developed more of a American and Cajun cuisine rather than strictly Cajun. Here's another look at the menu. They got shrimp and crawfish etouffee at $17. It's not cheap, but you're going to pay that for any kind of decent food. Shrimp and grits there are excellent. They're as good as Dixie Crossroads. They've got red beans and rice for you vegetarians. They've got the filet gumbo and jambalaya. I've had their jambalaya. It's really, really very good. So no complaints about their food. Here's a picture of the back room. If the music gets so loud you can't stand it up front, you can go into the back bar and have a drink. And I don't know if they serve food back there or not. I suppose they do. It never seems to get used. So the Orleans by the river, service is generally very good. I have no complaints. I know a bunch of the servers there. They're all nice folks. My one complaint is they clearly don't understand how to put music in a place, and sometimes the music can get really, really loud. Uncomfortably loud. But other than that, a fine place. I have fun when I go there, and Edie and I both enjoy it.
And we're back. The second watering hole and bar that we want to talk about is the Old Florida Grill. Have you eaten there?
No, not yet.
Edie and I, we've played there a couple of times.
Yes, we did, yes.
And it has a very small inside and then a very large combination patio outdoors and then a bar outdoors. I was one of the first customers. They opened up. I went there the first time, I think 11 years ago. And it was consistently good until it changed hands about a year and a half ago. It's a little bit of a biker bar, but still family friendly. But I would say the quality of the food is not what it was. Their fried green tomatoes are excellent, but service is frankly lacking. We went in there about a month and a half ago. The food was so bad, I sent it back and told them I refused to pay for it. And it took an hour to get served. This last time, I'll show you in the next segment what happened when we went in there. I'm going to be honest, I'm not going back. I've been there for 10 years,
Okay.
but
All right.
I'm done with the place. So here's the Old Florida Grill.
The Old Florida Grill. The Old Florida Grill is, let me think, it's down in Port St. John, just past the power station. It's on the river. I've been going there for, I think 10 or 12 years now. I was one of the first customers. I've always liked it. It was a fun place to go. It's a really pretty place, particularly in good weather, if you want to have a drink out and look over the river. Or it's somewhere you could bring your boat into. They used to have a dock right there. Here's some videos showing the outside of the place. The grounds are really very nice. There's like a tiki bar down overlooking the river that's separate from the rest of the restaurant. And you see there's parking for motorcycles. And down on the water, I think there's still a dock. There's the tiki bar. You can see it a little bit closer. And you can sit down there. There's some tables. People come in by boat, I believe, still. Here's the inside of the dining room. There's a really pretty wooden bar. And you can see towards the back of the room there's some inside seating. We like to sit inside if it's really hot out because it's air conditioned. But all right, here's the outside patio area. There used to be tables there in the middle, but the hurricane wiped out their awning, so they don't have any tables. So they have a lot less seating than they used to. I don't know if they're going to fix that or not. So that shows Veronica eating her oysters. We went in there one Sunday a couple of weeks ago. There's a picture of our oysters. We had been in there about a month before, and the service was really, really bad. And so we complained about it, and they said, well, they were sorry, and it was this and it was that. And so we suggested we come back, and we did. We came back and got oysters and beer and fried green tomatoes. You see the oysters there. The fried green tomatoes were excellent. They've got a new recipe for fried green tomatoes. And so I had no complaint with the food that they served us. The problem I had was when we were ready to leave. You see, we're ready, and we've been sitting there a while. And as you can see, they're not busy. We're trying to get the waitress to come over and pretty much being ignored. After they brought us our food, which, by the way, the guy from the kitchen brought, the waitress didn't even bring it, we never saw anybody again. So we sat there and sat there and sat there, and I'm not going to show you all the videos, but we waited for, I'm saying 20 minutes. It was at least 20 minutes. It may have been longer. And finally, Veronica just said, you know, I've kind of had enough. I'm going to go get the bill. So she went up and got the check. You'll see her here in a second. And she's saying, I'm tired of waiting. It's been a half hour and we're being ignored. So she goes up and gets the check and starts clearing the table herself. There she's walking up to get the check. And the funny thing was, they had the check. It was just sitting up there. Nobody thought to bring us a check. So she comes back, and nobody said sorry. Nobody said, we'll send somebody to clean your table. And she gives me the universal hand signal the wives have been giving for hundreds of years. Hand me your credit card. So what can I say about the Old Florida Grill? Frankly, I think the people that work there don't give a darn if you have a good time or not. Although I've been a long-time customer, I'm not going back until they finally get their act together. You can give it a try. It's a pretty place, fun place to set out with the family, but your service is going to be very, very spotty.
And we're back from the Old Florida Grill. Like I say, these are not scientific. Are these scientific?
No.
No. This is just our opinion of places. So if you want to go try it and you think it's wonderful, no offense taken. We don't have a problem with that. That does it for our show tonight. As we've said, we're going to try to do these a little more often now that we've, as you see, we're in a new studio here. And so we're going to leave you with a final musical interlude, and it's by?
Tropic, us.
By us, okay. And Edie has decided that our final music video is going to be a song called Lion of God, which I like because I have a new granddaughter whose name is Ariella. And in Hebrew, Ariella means Lion of God. So Edie, my friend, another good show.
It was.
Thank you for the effort. We're going to come back here in another few weeks and start these up again. Let's listen to Tropic playing Lion of God. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night.